Welcome to Mindfully Integrative Podcast with your host, Dr. Damaris G. Mindfully Integrative is a podcast discussing ways toward mindfully incorporating integrative health into our lives. This podcast will have informative resources, fun topics, interviews, and discussions relatable for today with a true mindful perspective in a mind-body, holistic life approach.
Hi, how are you? This is Dr. Damaris Maria Grossman, and this is the Mindfully Integrative Show. Thank you so much for joining in. And today we have an awesome mindful chat with Nika Lawrie. She's a functional nutrition specialist, and she has an array of knowledge and things to share with you about your health and what you can do to integrate better you. So I want you to meet her, and I look forward to you guys learning more about her. So thank you so much. Can I call you Niki? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, Niki is actually my legal name, but I go by Nika. So Nika has been my name forever. So yeah.
So tell us a little fun fact or something that people may not know about you that they can't just find out right away.
Yeah. So I think that probably the most interesting, weird fact is that I actually grew up off the grid, meaning that my parents lived in a cabin in the mountains outside of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we grew up with rainwater that we collected and filtered. And that was the water we used for living. And then we also had solar panels way long before solar panels were kind of this cool, trendy thing. Mm-hmm. And so growing up off the grid, really kind of having that connection to nature really had a profound impact on me. And I really rebelled from it. As a young kid, I went and moved to Manhattan and New York and Los Angeles and did the big city thing. And then as I've gotten older, I've really gained an appreciation for how my parents chose to live and the positive impact it had on my life.
That is so neat. Like I traveled across on an RV and like in a van, and I'm really I think that being off grid is kind of cool because it's just like really getting into nature and getting grounded.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'm jealous. I've been wanting to do the van living for a while now. So it's something on my bucket list. Definitely.
I did it a few years back and it was, I thought it was worth it and I really enjoyed it. I think there's points where I think there's that point of you do it forever or you do it and I just did it for a summer, but it was really enjoyable. I had a great time. But I think it's good to kind of like just sit with yourself a little bit and just have a little back to the simplicity of things,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Definitely. Yeah.
So, let's kind of talk about, your story and where, how you're on the show, Integrative Health, and, overall where kind of came from, where you're the functional nutritionist, and kind of let's talk about that and how, what exactly is that? And then also your story of how it started.
Yeah. So as a functional nutrition specialist, really what I do, and I do it a little bit different than your typical functional nutrition specialist, but what it really is that you work with individuals on different health issues or ailments that they might be facing. And we really take a functional medicine approach. So a much more looking at the root cause, looking at what's really going on inside of the body, opposed to just treating the symptoms of whatever the ailment or issue is that they might be facing. So an example is like an autoimmune issue. A lot of times people will have skin rashes or like irritable bowel issues or stress and anxiety is really common. There's all kinds of symptoms that come from an autoimmune disease. But what we really look at in functional medicine is what's actually causing that. So instead of just providing a prescription or something like that, we actually look at changing our lifestyle and our eating habits to really fix the root cause of what's ever causing that disease. So
makes sense.
Yeah. Why just put a Band-Aid on it when you can actually fix it? It's like having a flat tire and filling it up with air and then just putting a Band-Aid over the hole, opposed to actually, fixing the hole, taking the nail out and putting, a filler in and fixing the hole. So it's really kind of a different approach to how modern Western medicine has been looking at treating people for 100 years plus. And so as a functional nutritionist, I really work with people to kind of get to that root cause. But I also take it one step further. So I am a huge proponent for sustainability and living as green as possible and removing toxins from our lives. And there's so many toxins that people aren't even aware of that they bring into their homes. So things like food additives, like artificial and natural flavorings, things like colors, like dyes, things that are fragrances that are added to our shampoos and lotions and all these things. The scientists are saying, well, they're generally recognized as safe. They're on the GRAS list.
I know.
But
I'm like, I
can go into
do you know
this
what
forever,
EWG is?
Right. But the problem is that, that chemical may be safe in a very tiny amount at one time, but it doesn't take into account the layered on effects of all of those chemicals being put into or onto our body, or us breathing them in, like if they're aerosols, things like that, and the damage that it can cause to our body, not even to get into the fact of the damage that it's actually causing to the planet and the environment and the ecosystem that we are all a part of. And so I really help people not only look at their own personal health and how to make those changes, but looking at a lifestyle of making changes and really removing the things that are causing damage.
That makes a lot of sense. I try to talk about, well, we agree.
Thanks, yeah.
But, I just think that the audience may not know, and people that are listening just may not have an awareness of this. Mm-hmm. So would you be able to kind of talk further of what, your family was more on that nature and, from back to the off the grid. Was there something in your life that kind of was like that turning point?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have this story of like rebel against your parents kind of things. Like my parents were, they subcontract and did things with the government, especially with like the military, like the Department of Defense. And so they had this very kind of bipolar, in a sense, relationship. So they were working, with the government and doing things with the Department of Defense, but then they were living off the grid and kind of hippies and really trying to be natural and healthy. And so it was this weird universe that I grew up in. And so it really had this kind of, I didn't know which direction really made sense. And I just knew that I didn't have the things that all my friends had. We didn't have the video games or, the curling iron and stuff as a kid. And I felt so left out or left behind. And so as I grew older, I was like, this is dumb. I'm not doing this. So I, moved to some of the biggest cities in the world. I went and lived in New York and Los Angeles. I worked in film and TV. I worked in the music industry. I did a lot in film with costuming. So a lot with clothing and fast fashion and that kind of stuff. And long story short, after working, 20 hours a day, even sometimes in the film industry, I worked nonstop in the music industry. I burnt out. I got really sick and tired. I didn't feel good. And I just wanted to do something different. And so I decided to move back home to New Mexico, where I was born and raised, and go back to school. And so I went back to school for psychology. And I also have a degree in communications, but my primary focus was psychology and really starting to understand like why we think the way we do, why we behave the way we do, really trying to understand people. And that actually led me to work for the Alzheimer's Association, where I started to work with some of the world's leading experts on Alzheimer's disease. And I worked there for just shy of a decade. And what I learned from working,
my dad had Alzheimer's.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
it's a
tough one. It's tough.
It is. It's so devastating. And it's just, it steals the person that you love. It's just a heartbreaking disease. The thing I took away from working there and working with all these researchers is that there's likely not going to be a cure for the disease. There may be some treatments, but again, if we go back to functional nutrition, you're treating the symptom. You're not treating the actual root cause of the disease. And so what it really came down to is, how do we prevent this disease? How do we prevent people from getting it? And everyone just kept going back to, it is food and lifestyle. It's diet and lifestyle. It's how we eat and how we live. And
So
so
the type 3, that's what I hear. That's what I've been reading.
exactly,
That's what I've been hearing. And that's what I've been
really
reading myself through the research, that it's just like another form of diabetes.
Absolutely. I mean, I 100% believe that it is type 3 diabetes. And if you really start to look at the, groundbreaking research that's happening right now, all of that leads back to metabolic syndrome.
It does.
Right. And
It
so
totally does. I mean, that's like the main conversations I feel like I have now with my patients.
And it's scary because, it's something like
scary.
75 to 80% of Americans have some level of metabolic syndrome and aren't even aware that they have it. Like,
yes,
it's profound how big of a deal this really is. And, not to really,
it's huge.
It is. I mean, that's pretty much all of us that have some kind of issue. And the base of metabolic syndrome really is that feeds into all of these other chronic diseases that we're suffering. So Alzheimer's disease, autoimmune issues, heart disease, cancer, depression, anxiety, all of these things go back to metabolic syndrome. And really the basis of metabolic syndrome is we're taking in too many sugars and unhealthy toxins, and our gut is breaking down, and our liver is not functioning at the way it needs to be, and our pancreas is overloaded, and our insulin levels are off the chart, and it just, your body starts to degrade after that, and it's a huge issue.
I could not agree with you more. Every day I feel like that's a normal kind of conversation that I have. And I health consult with not just for my own patients, but for other companies and other patients. And that seems to be a very normal conversation of this metabolic syndrome that, people are not willing, but you're hoping that you empower them, right? And changing their behaviors, because they have control to at least get it managed or stop, and you're talking to them about the root cause. And I wish more of us, I mean, there are more of us out there now, that are providers and care and, nutritionists like yourself that are trying to make a difference and change one person at a time, right? That's how I look at it. And making any impact. Would you like to kind of go further in like what has inspired you lately, or have you had a story of someone that you've made that you've seen a significant change?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can even just use myself as an example. So, I worked in the music and film industry, which is, so many people dream about working in one or the other. And I was privileged enough to be able to work in both. But what I found was that they were really toxic environments, and health was not an even conversation. Like how you take care of your body wasn't even part of the conversation. I bet. And I just saw time after time, these people degrade and get sick. You see it a lot with, movie like actors and actresses and famous singers where they break down, right? They get really sick and they have to take a year off because they're so unhealthy. And the same kind of thing happened to me. I just got sick and I was tired, and I didn't know a lot about how the body worked at that point. I didn't understand where, I didn't understand the connect. I mean, I knew sodas probably weren't good for me, but you didn't really have that direct link of like, why isn't it good for me? Why isn't it, how is it affecting my body? What is it actually doing on the inside? And what kind of damage is it causing? And so once I started deep diving into that, I really learned I have so much control over how I feel on a day-to-day basis. And so I really became obsessed with how do I get healthy and how do I feel better? I just wanted to feel better. That was it. And that really kind of grew into starting a new career and figuring out what I wanted to do and wanting to help other people. And it comes down to, I just want to help people feel better, because so many of us just feel like crap, excuse my language, but for like a lack of a better word, there's so many of us that are just lethargic and tired and exhausted and burnt out and stressed out and emotionally run down. And so much of that people don't realize feeds back to it's what we're eating and it's how we're living. Whether that's sedentary or being stressed out or not having personal connections, those kind of things, all of that feeds into our overall health. So feeling sick is really what led me to where I'm at now. And I can personally say that making those changes, and it hasn't been overnight, it's been years of figuring it out and working at it and putting in effort, has brought me to where I'm at now, which is a completely different person. And it's totally been worth it.
I completely agree with you. I think that it's the kind of that empowerment and the change in the behavior and the overall thinking of like, you knew that things needed to change, but you weren't sure at first, but then you took the time and studied and then you made a change. And then now you take that effort and bring it to your patient, to your clients, your patients, what have you. I hope that, someone listening understands and here's your, what you're saying, so that they can say, hey, wait, I can change some of this stuff. Like, I'm not going to always be tired. And I'm completely in agreement with you in the sense of like, for me, right, I'm a fairly new mom, and I'm tired a lot, but I still have the empowered change to say, what can I do to make my days better?
Right.
But that's effort. So some of it comes down to how do we, in this time and age, I find for myself a challenge sometimes to empower my patients that are lazy, that may not want to be motivated. But do you give them any like small steps to kind of get them at least get going?
Yeah. So I think there's a couple things that I love what you're saying. There's a couple things that kind of sparked or had, things I wanted to share while you were talking about it. But the first thing is, I think, especially looking at moms, I feel like this misnomer for moms is that, I'm a mother of a 6-year-old, and she is lots of energy and takes a lot of focus. And yes, it can be exhausting and overwhelming. And, sometimes you drop them off at school and you secretly cheer because you get like a 5-minute break, right? But you still love them and miss them the second they're gone, right? But I feel like there's this misnomer that moms are supposed to be tired all the time because kids are so much work. And yes, they take energy, but there's also a really profound issue that moms are struggling with, especially in this country. We're not eating well. We're running off of sugar and caffeine. We're not sleeping enough. We're not prioritizing our own personal health. We're stressed out. And, stress is one of the most damaging things to your body. Yeah. Our microbiota inside our body that make all the energies inside our cells are functioning at like half of what they're supposed to be functioning because of all the other things that are playing, factors playing in our life. And so one of my biggest things is helping moms understand that you don't have to be tired and exhausted and broken down all the time. There are things you can do to make yourself feel better. And if you aren't going to do that for yourself, understand that taking care of yourself is going to have a huge impact on your child, not only on their development and who they become as an adult, but your daily interaction with them. No mom wants to yell at their kid. No mom wants to be stressed out and screaming at their kid to get ready in the morning or get out the door. And sometimes those things happen, but they can happen a lot less when you're healthy and you're feeling good and you have that energy. And so I really want to stress for moms that we can take care of our bodies and be better moms and feel better and feel happier. We don't have to be these stressed out, exhausted moms all the time. So that's my first one. The second one I want to add that I think is really important is people need to take a little bit of time to redesign their life. And what I mean by that is we've had this image in our head. We do it a lot as teens. Like, we think about who we're going to be as adults. Like, we're going to have this career, and then we're going to get married at this time. And then we're going to have 2.5 kids. We're going to live in this house and drive this car. We spend all this time, but then we become adults and we stop designing our lives. We stop really focusing on who we want to become. Instead, we just kind of fret and complain about how our lives aren't what we thought it was going to be. And so if we spend a little time thinking about who we want to be, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that gives us a roadmap of what we should start doing now, these little baby steps that we can do now to help us become that person. And that works not just for building a career or, buying your dream home or whatever. It works for our health. It works for what kind of body we want to live in, what kind of foods we want to eat, what kind of activities we want to do. And so we have to be conscious about how we design that and then use that as a roadmap to break that out into smaller pieces to start today.
I love that. A roadmap, direction, little mindful, these mindful steps as I call them. And I feel that you have been doing this for yourself for quite a while and for your colleagues and your patients. Do you find, because you're saying being a mom, do you feel like you're a better mom now?
I am. Yeah. I mean, it's a daily thing, you don't work that every day.
Oh no,
right?
Not by any means. Because people are always asking, no, I mean, you feel, but you know what I mean? Like you're able to be more present for your little one, even if it's good or bad moments, but be present in the best way and give the best of yourself forward.
Absolutely. And the thing that I've started to realize too, is that I've become a better role model for my daughter in the sense of she looks at food and she's like, this is a healthy food. That's a bad food. Like she'll say it. She's like, Mom, I ate really healthy food today. Or Mom, I didn't eat the bad food. And she'll like, I didn't eat the candy the teacher gave me or something. And I don't want her to have this full relationship of good or bad food, but understanding these things are going to help my body feel better. And these things are going to make me not feel as great. And so, having that relationship and being able to spark that in my daughter has been probably one of the most gratifying things of the whole journey, is just, positively impacting the next generation. And hopefully she can share those things with her children.
I think it's so important to have it instilled early because to see, like we talk about the adult obesity, but there's childhood obesity coming.
Oh, and that's off the charts.
A whole other conversation. And we could talk about that in another podcast in itself. But diabetes, obesity, and then childhood obesity, that's a whole other conversation that I'm like, oh my goodness. So if the parents aren't parenting themselves and then they're not that's just such a detriment, and starting that off so early. So the fact that you've already helped your child identify good and bad things and keep a really healthy relationship with their body is so important. My little guy, he's still little, but I just had a funny, random, not really off topic, but someone said to me, I think I was getting a dessert for us for the week. I keep a treat, I don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm mindful about what I try to put in my body. And they're like, oh, you don't do that every day. I'm like, no, I don't do desserts every day. And then they said, oh, does your toddler love like sweets? What do you want to give him? And I'm like, I don't really give him sweets. I give him fruit.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, he doesn't like, I don't know, some chocolate they were saying. And I was like, no, not really. And they go, why? And I'm like, well, if you don't start that behavior that, I just tell people, if you teach them early, it starts early. It starts with
absolutely.
It's not all bad.
Yeah.
I think to have that good, positive conversation,
And I think, go ahead.
No.
I think I heard something really fascinating the other day. I can't remember where I heard it, but I think it was a podcast or something I was listening to, and they were talking about child development and how you are essentially who you are going to be as an adult by age 12. So all of your input, all of your, behaviors and your mannerisms and your thought processes are pretty much ingrained in you by the time you're 12 years old. And so if you've been ingrained to eat, highly processed sugar, high carb. And when I say carb, I'm not talking about the vegetables. I'm talking about, high processed kind of
we're talking about nutrient dense versus non-dense.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And so, bleached flour, carb foods, highly processed foods, if that's been ingrained in you of like, this is how you eat, by age 12, it is very hard for people to change that as they get older. Most people have to have some type of major moment in their life to make that decision. So that's a diagnosis with a chronic disease. That's a life and death situation. That's you hear it sometimes with people who lose weight, who maybe they were like 200 or 300 pounds and they lose a lot of weight. It's usually a public embarrassment or something. It's something that triggers that profound, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to make a change. But the good news is that we can actually teach kids coming up, you don't have to eat that way. You can change, you can eat really healthy and really enjoy food. Like I still eat sugar, I just do it limited. I still eat processed foods.
People ask me too, I was like, I still eat things. I'm just more mindful about everything that I do. It's a conversation, and having a good relationship with the food conversation and with, your body. And I think it's another whole other topic, but
absolutely.
I think it's important. I know that your time is precious, but I do want you to, if you could add in, anything, because I know that you have an array of things that you do for your clients. What have you are doing recently, and how can people reach you, or if you'd like to talk anything further?
Yeah. So you can find me at Nika Lawrie on pretty much everything. So that's NikaLawrie. So I'm most active on Instagram, but you can find me wherever. You can go to my website, nikalawrie.com, which links to my business. I have a couple businesses too, but it links to all of that. So you can find me there. All of my information.
Your
there.
Businesses are different areas. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. So I have two main businesses. So I actually have three, but two main ones I really focus on. So I have, Moringa Health and Wellness, which is my functional nutrition practice. And so we do it a little bit differently. So we do the normal kind of coaching and kind of working through with people looking at health issues and how to change diet and lifestyle to really support those chronic diseases, to help mitigate them or even reverse them in some cases. But what we also do is we do a house kind of cleanup or detox. And so we either, if you're in the New Mexico area, we can do it one-on-one in person. If you're out of state, I do it through Zoom or FaceTime. And so we really just go through room by room and we look at what you have in your house, things that have toxic chemicals, artificial fragrances, artificial food additives like colors and dyes and flavorings and things like that, chemicals that cause potential, that are carcinogens, cause cancer, things like that are linked to causing cancer. And so we really do a deep dive in your house to help you really clean it out, kind of have a fresh restart. And then we can walk you through the process of how to replace those items that you have, that you may even love, with less toxic options. So we can go to the store and look through, like, you love this specific brand, but let's find the exact same thing in a different brand that has, that doesn't have those chemicals and stuff. And so really looking at how do we clean up your house? And so that's the thing we kind of do through the practice. And then I also have a clean living product line. It's called Moringa Clean Apothecary. And so we have clean beauty products like rose hip oil and rose waters and clay face masks and
that's awesome. I didn't know that.
Soaps. And
you'll have to make sure we'll put them in the show notes so people can reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really cool. And we're going through
any favorite product? I mean, I know that, but anything that you love, that's one of your faves?
My favorite two are Moringa clay mask. It uses actual moringa, which is, it's a superfood. It's considered the tree of life. But we mix that into our clay mask, and it is my favorite clay mask on the planet. And I know I'm biased, but it really, like, I've tried them all and it really is my favorite. And then I love rose hip oil because it is the most hydrating oil you can find that is just really good for your skin. So those are my two favorites.
Love it. Did you initially start making that on your own, and now you do that throughout? Cool.
Yeah. So I started, and then the big thing was, it was the gap. Even going to like Whole Foods, I was having a hard time finding just simple, pure products that just didn't have some additive or some dye or something. Like, it's hard to find. And so I was just like, I'm just going to make it myself and then share it that way. So
that sounds amazing. Well,
yeah.
I'll definitely put that in the show notes. I look forward
Thank you.
to audience looking out. And I really enjoyed having you on. Is there another like kind of go away message that you'd like to share, more inspiring quote or something that you'd like to share before we go?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thank you so much for having me on. I'm super grateful for the opportunity.
I love having you on. You have so much to share with the audience. We only just touched the surface.
I know. I could share forever. I love all of this, but yeah. So thank you very much for the opportunity. And I hope to be able to connect with the audience too. I'm here as a free resource if people need it too. So always feel free to reach out. The biggest thing I would share is just the tip is just start with one thing today. Like, don't get yourself overwhelmed. Getting healthy, changing your life, it feels really overwhelming. It doesn't have to be. When I first decided to get on my health journey, I literally just stood up off the couch and I didn't know what to do. So I started doing jumping jacks. And then those jumping jacks led me to the next thing. And then that led me to the next thing. So just start with one little bit, like just do some jumping jacks today. Like, that's it. Just start with one little thing. And then tomorrow, try something different and grow from there. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed, because that's what's going to hold you back.
I love it. Yeah. I don't let your self-talk and that overwhelmness get to you.
Absolutely.
Just start it one day. Cause I end the show of, first, I want to say thank you for having you on. It's been awesome. And I end my show saying, find a mindful way each and every day. And you're putting that out there for those in the audience, and they get it, So everybody do a little jumping jacks or a little bit of movement, whatever that is for you.
Yeah.
So thanks again. And I appreciate you being on, and those in the Mindfully Integrative show. Thanks again for coming on. And as I end you, make sure you have a mindful way each and every day. Thank you for listening to the Mindfully Integrative show with Dr. Damaris Maria Grossman, family nurse practitioner. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not the substitute for professional medical advice, diagnose or treat. Always consult your healthcare provider before making changes to your healthcare routine. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. If you enjoyed our show, please support us by leaving a mindful review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite streaming platform. Interested in being a guest or more information? Email us at info@mindfullyintegrative.com. For resources mentioned in the show, visit our website at www.mindfullyintegrative.com. You can also connect mindfully with Dr. Damaris on her social media links found on the site. May your strength and peace guide you to find a mindful way every day. Namaste.